No father is perfect. No mother is either, by the way. word for it. I'm not gonna lie to you. Y'all are close though. Y'all are really close. There are some amazing mothers here, but today I want to just celebrate these fathers who pray for their wives and children, who cover their families, who are leaders in their communities. I just want to salute you and say thanks for being who you are. Thanks for being awesome men of valor, men of integrity, men who stand for what's right and do the right thing, even in the face of what's wrong. Thank you. I salute you. I salute you. I salute you. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. Let's start reading one verse right now. I think this verse will speak to who we're dealing with today. And I'll be reading from the English Standard Version, ESV, and it simply says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. That's it. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. You may be seated. For just a few minutes with this thought in mind, a sharp brother. A sharp brother. There's something very distinct about a man who carries himself a certain way, who walks in a room and commands attention. Usually it has something to do with who he is, but who he is oftentimes in those moments reflected in perhaps how he is dressed. And so sometimes it's possible for a brother to walk in the room in a really nice suit with some exceptional shoes that are well shined, he's well put together, and you don't have to know him or know what he's doing there or why he's even there, but there's something about his presence. You say, that's a sharp brother right there. And it doesn't take anything away from anybody else in the room. In fact, it only compliments them that they could be self-confident enough, especially another man, to look at another man and compliment who he is. I'll never forget that one day I was out doing a visit and I had on some sweats and some tennis shoes and a t-shirt. And I showed up at a residence, and when I showed up there was some kids out in the yard, playing. And one of the kids, and there was nothing about, I had never been to this house before. There was nothing about, in fact, the only reason I went in sweats and tennis shoes is because it's what I had on when I got the phone call. And I showed up, and the kids, I didn't recognize any of the kids in the yard, but when I got there, one of the kids said, hey man, ain't you the preacher? Yeah. Who's asking? I was prepared to not be recognized at all, dressed down in some sweats and tennis shoes and a t-shirt. And even when I went in the house, they looked at my tennis shoes and looked at my Nike pants and my Nike shirt and how it matched. And they said, Pastor, even when you casual, you one sharp brother. That's not a self-serving comment. I'm simply saying that it doesn't matter what you have on, brothers. If you're a sharp brother, you're a sharp brother. And that goes for sisters too. You just got to translate all that throughout this message as you did last month. Listen. And so this book of Proverbs is a very interesting book because it's an interesting setup in Proverbs. The first couple of chapters, Solomon wrote most of Proverbs except the last 2 chapters, and it's made up of 560 Proverbs, this book of Proverbs. Of course, 49 of those are questions. 27 verses are unfulfilled prophecy. 67 the Proverbs deal with sin. 66 of them talk about fools and their folly. 28 of them deal with the idea of lazy people. 22 of them talk about kings, and 25 talk about abominations. There are 215 commands, 120 promises, 27 blessings, 24 secrets to life. But there's only 17 in what they call verses about making you better. And when you think about this scripture, this text that we're going to look at today, it's one of the few scriptures that talk about making you better. And so if we're going to be a sharp brother, there is talking about several things. It says, as iron sharpens iron, as iron sharpens iron. And if you read this in several other versions, and I read it in every every version possible, there are many of them in the NIV, which I would usually preach from, talks about, so as iron sharpens iron, so, it sharpens the countenance, if you will, of his friend. Now you'll see that word countenance. Well, let me deal with that, because that is a significant word. The countenance, if you understand it, it is the facial expression. When something goes wrong, your countenance changes. That means your facial expression has changed. But countenance is also defined, when it's used as a noun, also to help someone remain calm and confident. At countenance, that's what you're doing. It is to help somebody to remain calm and yet confident and strong in who they are. But iron is sharpening iron. In other words, if you want to help another brother be sharp, first of all, that means you have to be cut from the same cloth. You got to be made from the same thing. Understand something. There are few metals that can take the heat that iron can take. Because some metals, when heated, will melt. They will form and take form and shape to whatever the heat and whatever it is put in. But iron can take heat, and it takes a lot to get iron to melt. And that's why it takes iron to sharpen iron.
All right.
When it's talking about iron sharpening iron, it's literally talking about three different areas of brothers sharpening each other. One is intellectual. The second is moral, and the third is spiritual. These are the three ideas of iron sharpening iron. And so let's just deal with this intellectual thing first, because if we look at intellectual just at what it is the capacity of another brother to help another brother come up, if you will. Proverbs 23. And this is our responsibility as men, to challenge one another intellectually. And so when the idea, the picture that it paints here in Hebrew is the gathering of ideas. It is the gathering of ideas. And so, give me Proverbs 23. And so here's what it looks like. All right, we'll come back to it. It says, if a brother, watch this, that's going to sharpen you, watch this, should push you to a higher level intellectually. Let me explain to you what that means. Because in Proverbs 23, it's talking about, are you pulling that for me right now? All right, let me read it to you real quick. Proverbs 23. Verse 6 through 8. It says, do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy, nor do not desire his delicacies. For he's like one who is inwardly calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You'll vomit up the morsels that you have eaten and waste your pleasant words. Let me read that again slow. I wish I could get the picture here. Read it with me. Listen. It says, you do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy. Other versions say a man who is not generous. Why? Don't desire his delicacies. Why? For he's like one who is inwardly calculating, and it has in quotes, eat and drink, as if to say, come on, eat and drink. But his heart is not with you. And you will vomit up the morsels that you have eaten and waste your pleasant words. Why is that significant? Why is that important? Because in other words, it says, as a man thinketh, so is he. All right, you understand that? That's what it says in that verse, the New King James. As a man thinketh, so is he. Now, why is it important? Because how the brother is thinking, that's who he is. And so with that in mind, don't fool with a stingy or non-generous person. Why? Because the fact that they are not generous speaks of who they are. Let me try it again. It speaks of how they think. It speaks of how they process things. It speaks of how they process information. And if you keep looking at that, in other words, what you see is what you get. That's the essence of what he's saying. Don't deal with somebody who is stingy, because it speaks of how they process information. It is, they are calculating. They'll tell you one thing, come on, eat, have food, but their heart is not with you. And here's what ends up happening. That's right. It says you'll end up wasting your good words. If you want to know what it means to waste your good words, it means that, another verse said, you put your good words down. Some of y'all know what it means to put them good words down. And it literally means that you're literally eating your words, because you have to retract the good thing that you said about them because you desired their delicacies. But now that you see who they are, that they really didn't mean that to be generous. They really weren't being generous. And so now you have to pull your words back. That's what it says. You'll vomit up your words and you'll put down your kind words. Well, here's the thing. When you put down your kind words, you usually fill them with some other words.
That's right. Lord help us. Come on today.
And so what happens is, if an iron is going to sharpen iron, then brothers, that means that we have got to challenge each other. And that we should be challenged and be willing to be challenged to think differently. Let me try it again. That if everybody agreed with everything that you said, this world wouldn't be nothing. The reason why we have what we have and we can do what we do is because somebody thought differently than you. In fact, haven't you ever changed your mind? Because iron sharpen iron.
Yep, that's it. Talk about it. Come on, Pastor.
Now when you look at this, it's not just intellectual, but it's moral. I'm almost through. But watch this. The problem for most of us is most of the time our morals change, but our friends don't.
Say it, Pastor. Say it.
Our morals change, but our friends don't. In other words, we grow, and sometimes the people around us don't. We evolve, and sometimes the people in our circle don't. And people cannot sharpen you morally if they're not evolving with you. If I had the proper mic, I would do this example myself, but I need some help because I got to hold this mic because I didn't get my other mic ordered in time. Yeah, pray, thanks, pray. Come get out right here.
You can do it. You got it. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Iron Man. Oh, yeah. There you go. You're going to be good now. Oh, yeah.
I just don't want the bar to, I didn't want that to happen. Yeah. We are. No, don't start lifting just yet. Yeah. You're welcome. Ecclesiastes 4. Watch this. Morally, we all get weak. There's not one person in here that does not get weak morally. Here's what it says. 2 are better than 1. Why? Because they have a good reward for their toil.
Teach us.
Verse 10. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Everybody has moral failure.
All of us.
It only is bad when you view somebody. See, that's why I tell, don't ever hold me on a pedestal. I don't want to fall, but if I do, don't hold me up so far up here that if I fall, everything in you breaks.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
That's real.
And what happens is when people who we love fall or fail us, sometimes they didn't have anybody to pick them up. And so I liken this and our moral development to that of lifting weights.
Right.
Because as we're going through life cycles, it is like lifting weights. This is the process. When you lift weights, you are getting stronger.
Yes.
But here it is. When we must lift these heavy weights, the good news is we don't always have to lift them by ourselves. Because this is what they say. This is where iron is sharpening iron morally. Because even as you're lifting life's weights, God provides a spotter.
Yeah.
A spotter, yeah. And a spotter's greatest job is not to lift, but to convince the one who's lifting that he can't lift it. That this is how we sharpen each other morally, because sometimes the weight of temptation jumps on you, the weight of depression jumps on you, and while you're struggling, come on, see if you can lift this thing up. But while you start to struggle, and life gets tough for you, go ahead, come on, put it down one time. You got a spotter, no worries. Look at him, he's strong. But what happens is sometimes the weight starts. Wait a minute. Hold on now, you stay over there. Sometimes the weight starts to get heavy on us. And here's the thing. Here's what the spotter's job is. The spotter, and I learned this from a professional, right? The spotter's job is not to lift the weight. In fact, once you come to a point of struggle, let it struggle right there. The spotter's job is not to just lift it off of you. The spotter's job is to encourage you to lift and to do enough just to keep the weight moving. Because what happens is if the spotter just takes the weight off of you, you don't grow. But what happens is that he helps you, says, come on, give me one more. Come on, you can do it. Come on, and starts encouraging you. Then when the weight of the world begins to attack you, you understand what it means to have somebody who has your back. That's why we need a spotter. That's why you shouldn't walk through this world all by yourself. This Christian journey is not meant to be walked out by yourself. But every now and then, all of us need a spotter. We all need somebody to help you. To help you lift the weight. And they left me. But I was going to say this. The reason why a spotter is so important is because sometimes while you're already struggling, sometimes even more weight is added. And you already know, as if life was not heavy enough. I mean, as if I wasn't already barely making it. Now I get this letter in the mail. Now I get this phone call. Now I've experienced this tough struggle. And so now the weight seems like it's just getting piled on more and more. And it seems too much to bear. And it is too much to bear. But I've got some good news. You ain't got to lift this thing by yourself. Because even though it gets real heavy, God sent somebody that even when you're struggling, that they're willing to still stay in that thing with you. And so when it gets tough for you, he's right there to guide you. I wish I had somebody. Because how do you know that God is our guide? That God is our spotter? That when the weight of this world seems too much to bear, God steps in right on time. He's able to lift the weight up off of your shoulders. And you say, if nobody but Jesus, but if it had not been but for the Lord on my side, I don't know where I'd be. I'd have been choked out by the weight of this world. But God spotted me. He spotted me. And he kept the weight moving. What a blessing it is. Yes, sir. to have a spotter. Let me tell you something, church. The reason why iron is sharpening iron,
Come on, Pastor.
is because we as men have to have a spotter. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you the point of a spotter, because you need your spotter to be somebody who already has lifted this weight before. Try it again. See, you can't have no spotter who's never lifted this kind of weight before. And some of us are going through some things and we still got our same old circles because they have not evolved with us. And so that's why you got to get some spiritual people in your lives who know how to lift divorce, who know how to lift depression, who know how to lift the lack of love, who know how to lift low self-esteem, who know how to lift those things up. Because if you get around somebody and they don't know how to lift it, they'll tell you to do something crazy. They'll tell you to go ahead and they'll tell you let's roll over on somebody. They'll say let's go smoke some weed. Y'all ain't say nothing. They'll say let's just go get drunk. They'll tell you to do the wrong thing because they ain't never lifted no weight like this before. So this weight will seem impossible to them as well. But that's when you get somebody who has some experience in weightlifting. You get somebody who knows how to lift this weight so that when days get dark and when your friends get you can call on somebody. Say, I need you to lift me up in prayer. I'm struggling right now. This weight is heavy, but I need somebody who knows something about squatting. You gotta have somebody who knows how to lift what you're going through. Okay, all right. Well, forever. So you need a spotter. But then it's not just intellectual, and it's not just moral, but it's spiritual. It's spiritual. That as iron is sharpening iron, it's not just intellectual. It is intellectual. If you do the research in Hebrew, it talks about the gathering of ideas, but it also talks about moral support. Because if all your friends don't have the same morals that you have, when the rubber hits the road, and all you got is people who saying let's do it, and nobody saying you can go against the grain, because that's what weightlifting is. You get strong by going against the grain. Your strength doesn't come on the way down, it comes on the way up. It comes in resistance.
That's it.
And Lord knows this world offers so much, and the only way your faith gets stronger, the only way your love gets stronger, the only way your joy gets stronger is through resistance.
Yes, God. That's good, Pastor.
But it's not just moral, it's also spiritual.
Yes.
It's also spiritual. Philippians 4:8 and then 4:13. Philippians 4:8. Watch it. It says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things.
Right.
Why is that important?
Very important.
Because your thought life matters.
Yeah.
If you're going to fight a spiritual battle, what you think about matters.
Yes, it does. Mercy. Say that again.
And let me tell you, your thoughts, although we deal with our thoughts from within, they come from the outside. Try to get.
That's good, Pastor.
So our thoughts come from what we see, and what we hear. They come from our gates. They come from what you talk about.
Yeah.
They come from what you listen to.
Yeah.
They come from what you watch. And that is where your thought life comes from. And this is why the writer says, listen, whatever things are pure. He said, listen, if you want to think differently, he said, you gotta think differently.
Right.
If you want to think differently, you have to look differently. You have to listen differently. You have to speak differently because your thought life matters. And then 4:13, that's what happens, because not only you have to get your thought life, but you better have a determined spirit. I can do what?
All things.
How?
Through Christ.
Listen, you better understand that your power, your strength comes from Christ alone. But you have to have a determined spirit that says, I can do it. That says, I can do it. You can't be defeated before you even get to it. I was watching, I think it was the movie about Carter football team, and they were talking about one game in particular, and they came out and they said they saw the other team do something, and they said, game over. They knew that they knew they had them beat before they even took the field. And then they did their chant that I won't do, but they came out and they said, game over. They knew that they were going to defeat the other team before, and it had nothing to do with Christ. But you have to understand that the reason why we're going to win the battle is because we believe that Christ is fighting with us. And that he's going to fight through us. All right? Titus 2. Watch this. Because men need to model for young men, and the mature saints need to demonstrate for the immature. If you want to mature spiritually, you got to walk with some mature saints. It says, likewise, urge the younger men to be self-controlled. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works. And in your teaching, show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. Amen? Pull Amos up for me. Because see, when we talk about this thing about walking together, there's something about it that's significant when we start talking about walking. So it says, can two walk together except they be agreed? Can they? Now to maintain integrity with what that's saying, he's really talking about the totality of the prophet's word and God's judgment. That's the two. He's really talking about. If you read all of Amos, if you read it all in context, of course, contextually, we've used that scripture to talk about many things, especially in particular marriage or other things the likes thereof. But here's the thing: when we're talking about walking out this relationship spiritually, you got to walk with somebody who has experience in walking. Let me try it one more time. Do you know why it is better for people to work together in a group or work out in a group? Because sometimes one person will get tired. But if the group says, come on, you can do it. And if you're trying to do it by yourself and you're not working out with somebody else, it's easy to quit because you ain't letting nobody else down but yourself. Right. And we can justify letting ourselves down. Well, I'm tired. You need to rest. But if your workout partner says, no, come on, now's the time we got to push. You get on out the bed, you go and lace up your shoes, and you'll go to the gym or to the track or whatever it is you're going to do. But you have to walk with somebody who knows something about walking. That's good. And then watch this. You have to walk with somebody who can walk at least at your pace and faster. Try it one more time. Because what happens is if you're walking and you walk with somebody who is not maturing at the same pace, walking at the same pace that you are, what will happen is they'll get left behind, and what happens is now you get discouraged. And this is what happens in too many of our homes. sometimes in relationships, sometimes in marriages, sometimes in work relationships, sometimes in church relationships. Sometimes you're walking much faster than everybody else is walking.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when you start talking about walking in a mature walk with Christ, you got to walk with somebody who's been around the track a few times. Yeah. Because you need somebody who's had this thing called conditioning. Because if we both walking and we're both at the same pace, and we both get tired on lap one, we're not going to grow or mature. But if you have somebody who has been conditioned, and they're used to walking, so now even when you're tired, they can tell you, come on, keep walking. Yeah. Come on, let's keep going. Come on, keep pushing. Yeah. Because when it comes to this, you've got to walk with somebody who has some experience in walking. And they have to be able to walk. So if you're talking about sharpening each other, get with somebody who got some pace to it. Get with somebody who's got some determination to it. Get with somebody who's got some stamina to it. Don't get with somebody who at the first sight of trouble, at the first sight of getting tired, at the first sight of difficulty, at the first sight of opposition, they want to quit. And this is why your partner that you used to sharpen with is important. Right. Church, you cannot continue to walk long term with people who are not walking at the same pace as you. I know this is hard. We don't want to hear this kind of stuff. Because we like who we like, and our friends are our friends. And we don't care how slow they walk. And I'm not telling you to dump your friends. That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is that when you make sure that when you are that you spend a good portion of your time with people who are walking at the same pace and faster than you. One, because if they're a little bit ahead of you, that gives you something to keep chasing after. All right? Make sure that they're at least going and growing. Why? Because it comes back to point number 2. If not, you don't have any moral support. You don't have any reason to, or anybody who's giving you reason to do the right thing. And so don't give us somebody who every time they get something, they quit coming to church. They quit praying. They quit believing. Get with somebody who understands that difficulty is a part of the process. You can't really tell it on here, but this machine has some incline. And so even as you walk, sometimes walk gets more difficult. And I ain't have time to let you see it raise up, but it gets more difficult even walking at a slow pace. Difficulties will come, but it doesn't mean it's time to give up. It just means it's time to get stronger. It's time. How else will you get stronger if you quit walking? How does your faith get any stronger if you quit believing? How does your joy get any stronger if you quit laughing? And you quit asking God for joy? How does your love get any stronger if when you are offended that you quit at your offense, but you don't get stronger and embrace and forgive because you understand that that's what was extended to you? How does it get stronger? How do you grow? If iron is going to sharpen iron, it happens because you understand that you got to walk in such a way and with people who are walking the same direction, who are trying to grow at the same pace, people who have been where you're trying to go. And that's why those of you who own businesses or who want to start businesses, don't partner up with somebody whose business has never succeeded. Notice I didn't say don't partner with somebody whose business has never failed. It's all right to experience failure. Failure brings character. But again, when you fall and you fail, just don't be there by yourself. You need somebody to say, listen, this thing didn't work out the way you wanted to, but let's go, what's next? And so in fact, it might be good to talk to somebody who is successful, but wasn't always. Because they bring to the table something that most people don't get. And let me tell you something, even as Christians, even as believers, Don't get with somebody who you think is perfect. Get with somebody who has perfectly failed and perfectly gotten up again and is perfectly doing the best they can. That's the model that you want. Not with somebody who always portrays that they have it together. No, get with somebody who has failed. Ask them, how do you pray through your see nothing days? Listen. I wish I was a great pastor and a perfect pastor. I wish it was like that. I'm just not. And it's not like that at all. I do the best I can, but I fall and I have frailties and I fail and I get weak. And I don't like it, and just like anybody else. But I'm so glad. I'm not in this by myself. I've got an amazing partner who, whenever I start to fail, she says, boy, if you don't get up from here, come on, we can do this. You can do this. You're a king. She starts to speak into me and encourage me and help me. And I got other preachers and pastors who love me enough to speak into me. And many of you speak into me and you cover me in prayer. And so even when I feel like giving up, I'm so encouraged by what I see and what I hear, because I got people around me who are pushing in the right direction. Let me tell you something. You better find somebody.
That's right.
You better find people in your life that will help push you to your next level. And do not settle for being held back. Right. Don't settle. Listen, again, I ain't telling you to dump your friends. Some friends, though, you might need to dump. Some friends are the weight. They are the thing that you're resisting. I might have to add that in next time. Some friends are the thing that you are resisting. Some family are the thing that you are resisting.
Teach, man.
But if you know it's not right, don't stay there. Don't stay in that type of relationship. Don't stay in that type of situation. Make sure that you understand that there's a level of resistance that comes. Right? But you got to spot her. You got to spot it. And you have to understand the difference between the growth that comes from resistance and toxic. Let me try it again. Toxic. Dr. Kerry Wesley, senior pastor at the Antioch Church over Hampton, was recently diagnosed with stomach cancer. They're doing a service for him tonight at I think 6 o'clock or 4 or 6 o'clock, something like that. Whatever time it is, I'm going. I want to go and support. What has happened is his stomach has become toxic. Now that's different than his faith that is being pushed down right now. And you have to understand the difference between toxicity and strengthening. Clarence, the reason why muscles get strong is because the resistance pushes, what's the acid that goes? What is it? Lactic acid. All right, and it's the lactic acid that enables the muscles to stretch, to enlarge, right, and to strengthen. Am I right? Yeah. I'm asking the right one. Am I right? It is lactic acid. And so it is that it's not toxic. It is stretching. It is strengthening. And you have to understand that this is because you have a difficult time and season in your marriage. That ain't the time to run for your marriage. That's the time to resist the devil.
Yes, amen.
Just because you're having a hard time in your business is struggling, that ain't the time to quit the business. That's the time to resist the devil.
Yes.
And sometimes you may need to end toxic relationships so that the main relationships can be strengthened. I'm through. Conditioning matters. Conditioning matters. Listen, there's a little boy that was putting a puzzle together. And as he was putting the puzzle together, it was a picture of, it was a puzzle of the world. And his dad was rather impressed at how quickly he was putting this puzzle together. He said, son, you know where all these states go, and you know where these countries are, he said, that's pretty impressive. He said, oh, Daddy, it was easy. said, easy? He said, with the grades that you made in history, you can't tell me that this was easy. He said, no, Daddy. And he flipped the puzzle over. And on the back side was a man. He said, I didn't know where all the countries were. And I didn't know where all the states were. All I did was put the man together. And when he came together, it was amazing, Daddy, that the world came together.
That's good.
Come on, church. Men, it's time to come together. It's time to come together. It's time to be strengthened. It's time to resist. It's time to get stronger. It's time to mature. It's time to spot. And here's what I love about going to the gym. Because when one person gets done lifting, then they come around and they become a spotter.
That's good.
So sometimes you're spotting and sometimes you're resisting. And so the very one who got encouraged at this point of struggle, but the weight kept moving, now turns around and begins to speak into the very one who was telling him, you can do it. And now he said, I did it, you can do it. Come on, give me one more. You can do it. And that is the importance of coming together. Sisters, youth, you got to find the right friends. Because there's some friends that ain't going the same direction you're going. They're doing different kind of things than you're doing. And you got to figure out where you want to be in that. You got to find you some friends and some people around you who will tell you, no, do the right thing. This ain't who we are. That's not who you are. And it takes a friend. It takes an authentic friend to tell you, girl, you acting funny. You having an out-of-body experience. I don't even know who you are right now. It takes somebody in your circle who loves you enough to tell you, brother, that ain't right. Come on, man. No, I know she tripping, but that's what brothers were like, man, she tripping, man. I know she tripping, but I know they coming for you, but it's time to come together. Listen, gracious God, we thank you so much for your amazing grace. We thank you for your exceptional love. We thank you for your loving kindness. We ask, oh God, that even as we prepare to extend this invitation, God, we pray that above all else, that we would come together in such a way that gives you glory, gives you honor, gives you praise. For you alone are worthy. Have your way in this place even now. In the name of Jesus. Amen. God, we thank you so much. Listen, if you're here and you're here without a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, it means you've never accepted Christ as your Savior. I've got some good news. We serve a God who will meet you right where you are. And He wants to bring you in. He wants to welcome you into the fold. He wants to spot you. He wants you to know He's got your back. He wants you to know that there's no weight that He'll put on you that He won't give you the strength and the capability to lift. I know it gets heavy. I know it seems frustrating. I know it does. I know it's easy just to give up because it just seems like it just shouldn't be that heavy. It just shouldn't be this hard. I know. But if you just keep pushing, you got a spotter. If nothing else, your pastor is telling you can do it. That there's nothing too hard for you. There's nothing too hard for the God in you. And that's why you can do it. Because God will give you strength. Why? You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Don't you throw in the towel. Don't you give up. You just keep resisting. God is strengthening you. Every struggle that you had has made you stronger. You came out on the other side. You thought he was going to take you out. You thought it was the end. How many times have we thought in our lives that it was just more than we could bear, but we still here? God did it, and he'll do it again. Keep resisting. Why don't we all stand? And won't you come?
Grateful for the things that you have done.
Yes.
Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we've won. I could go on and on and on about your word, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful just to praise you, flowing from my heart. Issues are the issues of my heart is gratefulness. Yes, yes, I'm grateful for the things that you have done. Yes, I'm grateful for the victories we won. I could go on and on and on about your word, because I'm grateful, grateful, so grateful just to praise you, Lord. Flowing from my heart, issues of my heart is gratefulness.
Hallelujah. Bless the wonderful name of Jesus. Listen, it's offering time. Hallelujah. Bless the wonderful name of Jesus. Listen, I'm still fortunate enough in this time and this to have an earthly father. My dad's been really sick, and for the first time, I see he's aging. He's always been a strong man. It's tough. I remember when my wife and I were coming back maybe 2 years ago, and my dad was in the hospital, and he'd never been in the hospital, so he was in the hospital. And I remember I cried all the way back from Houston because I'd never seen my dad like that. But I'm so thankful that he's still here, and he's just an amazing guy. But you know what? Even if you don't have an earthly father, the good news about believers is we still have a heavenly Father. And so while we are wishing our earthly fathers happy Father's Day, let's take a moment and just tell our heavenly Father how much we're thankful for his never-ending presence in our lives. How he has blessed us. He has been there, whether you had a good biological or earthly father or not. And here's the other good thing: God will send other men to be a father to you, even if your biological father was not there for whatever reason, deceased or by choice or in prison, whatever the case may be. God has never left any of us fatherless. In fact, he is a father to the fatherless. And so we wish our Heavenly Father happy Father's Day. Do the very best you can. Let's give our great God a great Father's Day gift. Let's be extra generous. We certainly want to. In the next month, we'll be at Ellis County Outreach, And so we want to not only go there and serve, but also be a blessing. They have asked us for a few things, and so I'm not asking for a special offering. I'm just asking you to be generous. Just tithe and give an offering, and that should be sufficient. Amen? Amen. Let's go and serve.